stormy Halloween night, little Elara, the orphan, lit a single candle in her cold, empty attic. Outside, the wind howled like 1,000 whispers, rattling the old windows. Tonight wasn't ordinary. She had sent invitations to creatures no one else dared name, monsters of every shape, size, and shadow. As the clock struck midnight, the first knock came low, deep, and terrifyingly deliberate. Elara's heart pounded, but a mischievous grin spread across her face. She wasn't afraid. She had a plan. What happens when a lonely child dares to dine with monsters? Watch till the end. The last guest will shock you. The rain pelted against the orphanage windows in jagged sheets, a symphony of cold and isolation that mirrored Elara's small, shivering heart. The other children had been tucked into their beds hours ago, tucked under thick quilts, their nightmares hidden behind warm walls. But Elara did not sleep. She sat in the attic of the old orphanage, her legs pulled close to her chest, staring at a single flickering candle. She had spent the last few weeks meticulously crafting her invitations, not for the children, not for any adult who might lecture her on manners, but for monsters. Real monsters. Creatures that lurked in shadowed forests, under beds, in abandoned houses. Tonight, they would come. Her candlelight trembled as the wind howled through the cracks in the roof. Each gust carried a whisper, a promise, a warning, but Elara only smiled. For years, the world had called her lonely, strange, odd. Tonight, the monsters would understand her. And perhaps, she thought, she could understand them. The first knock came just as the grandfather clock in the hallway struck midnight. Low, slow, deliberate. Elara held her breath, her small hand clutching the invitation like a lifeline. She opened the attic door. A shadow filled the entrance, tall, elongated, with glowing eyes and jagged horns curling like smoke. The monster stepped forward, its claws scraping the worn wood of the floor. Yet it bowed its head, almost politely. "Welcome," Elara whispered. "Dinner is ready." The next hour was a blur of eerie arrivals. A creature with scales like blackened glass slithered through the doorway, leaving a trail of mist. A being cloaked in darkness, with eyes that reflected every fear Elara had ever felt, floated silently to the table. Each monster carried its own aura, a mix of terror, sorrow, and expectation. And Elara greeted them all with warmth, offering plates she had carefully set with simple food, bread, and candles by the time the last guest arrived. The attic had transformed. Shadows danced across the walls like liquid night, glowing eyes sparkled in every corner, and the smell of rain mixed with the warmth of the small candles. Elara, tiny in the center of this assembly, felt a sense of power she had never known. She was the hostess, the bridge between the human and the monstrous, the ordinary and the extraordinary. The monsters did not speak as humans did, but their presence spoke volumes. They were weary from being hunted, feared, misunderstood. They were angry, lonely, proud, sad, and in some strange way, they were hungry, not just for food, but for acknowledgement. Elara understood this instinctively. She offered plates, smiles, and gestures of respect. A monster with fur as white as moonlight bowed, and the soft glow of its eyes softened the jagged shadows. Another, with wings of tattered leather, hummed a low, almost melodic vibration that filled the attic with warmth. Hours passed, yet time seemed irrelevant. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, a fragile harmony had formed. Elara felt a deep kinship with the creatures. She realized that her loneliness had mirrored theirs. Both human and monster carried the weight of being unseen, misunderstood, forgotten. And in that attic, amid candlelight and shadow, they were finally recognized, but not all monsters came with benign intentions. A large, hulking figure entered last, its skin cracked and oozing with black ichor. Its eyes burned like coals. The air shifted. A collective tension rippled through the room. Elara's small heart raced, but she did not retreat. She held up a plate of bread and smiled. Slowly, the figure's posture softened, and it approached. For the first time that night, it knelt by the table, and a low, guttural sigh escaped its throat. Acceptance. The clock struck 3, and Elara realized that something remarkable had happened. The monsters were no longer visitors. They were companions, witnesses to a rare human courage, a child's fearless compassion. They had come expecting fear, mockery, perhaps even violence. And instead, they found understanding. As dawn crept across the sky, a strange silence filled the attic. The monsters began to dissipate, fading into mists and shadows, leaving behind faint whispers of gratitude. A coin, a feather, a scale, tokens of acknowledgement. Elara collected them carefully, pressing each into her notebook. She knew these items were more than souvenirs. They were reminders that the night had been real, that connection had been forged, that understanding could exist between worlds. She sat alone, the storm outside finally receding. Her attic no longer felt empty. It felt alive. The candle burned low, casting golden light on the small tokens of the night's communion. She realized she had discovered something profound. Fear and kindness are not opposites. Compassion can exist even in the presence of terror. A child can teach monsters to trust, and monsters, in turn, can teach humans the courage to embrace the unknown. Over the following weeks, the orphanage staff noticed a subtle change in Elara. She walked taller. Her eyes brightened with quiet confidence. Her smile carried the weight of a secret victory. The children whispered about the strange things they imagined she had done, but Elara only smiled to herself. She had dined with monsters, and they had left forever changed. Halloween became her ritual. Each year, she prepared the table in the attic, leaving candles flickering and plates ready. The monsters came, some familiar, some new, always respectful, always hungry, not just for food but for acknowledgement. Elara grew into her role, small yet mighty, bridging the impossible gap between two worlds. She learned to read their intentions, their emotions, their moods, and in doing so, she found a family she had never known, and yet she never lost her humanity. She remained an orphan in the eyes of the world, but among monsters she was revered. They came to trust her, confide in her, and even protect her. Stories spread through their secret networks of forests, shadows, and abandoned ruins. The tiny human girl who dared to invite monsters to dinner. Years later, when Elara became older, the orphanage staff would sometimes find her seated in the attic with a strange glow surrounding her. The shadows would bend, eyes would glimmer, and a low hum of gratitude would echo softly. She never explained it, and no one asked. Those who had the eyes to see, saw. Those who did not, only felt the warmth and strange serenity that surrounded her. In the end, Elara understood the profound truth she had discovered that fateful Halloween. Courage is measured not by the battles one fights against others, but by the willingness to understand, to invite the unknown, to extend kindness when fear is expected. Monsters were not born evil. Humans were not born kind. Both worlds were fragile, complex, and capable of transformation. And one small girl had proven that even the youngest, weakest among us could teach the strongest, most fearsome beings a lesson in humanity. CTR. Closing moment for YouTube. One orphan girl dared to invite monsters to her dinner table. And what happened next will shock you. Fear, friendship, and courage collide in this unforgettable Halloween story. Watch till the end.